in the shadow of the Alps, in a village forgotten by most maps. An ordinary blacksmith's forge held an extraordinary secret. It was 1943, and the tide of war had washed over the peaceful valleys of occupied Slovenia. The Axis powers held the land in an iron grip, disarming the population and crushing any whisper of dissent. But in the small village of Chernomel, a quiet defiance was taking shape, not with issued weapons, but with ingenuity, courage, and scrap. This is the story of how, under the very noses of the Italian Carabinieri, and later, the far more brutal German Gestapo, one community's discarded metal was transformed into a hidden arsenal. How did one village's scrap metal become 500 secret pistols? Our story centers on a man named Frank L., a master blacksmith and a dedicated member of the Liberation Front, Slovenia's partisan resistance. His workshop smelling of coal, sweat, and hot iron was the heartbeat of the village. But by 1943, that heartbeat was regulated by the boot of the occupier. Every gram of steel was controlled. Every tool was registered. Possession of a single unauthorized bullet could mean a death sentence. Or worse, the deportation of one's entire family. The local partisan brigade, operating in the dense forests of the Kochevje region, was in desperate straits. They were outgunned, outnumbered, and critically short of sidearms. Rifles were precious, often taken from fallen enemies, but a reliable, concealable pistol for scouts, couriers, and commanders was a rare treasure. The order came down from the partisan high command. Find a way to manufacture weapons locally. The mission landed on France's broad shoulders. His task was not just to make a few guns, but to establish a covert production line of staggering scale. The challenge was monumental. He had no precision machinery, no blueprints from an armory, only his skills, a few trusted apprentices, and the absolute silence of his neighbors. The solution lay in plain sight. Frank began by collecting what the occupation forces considered worthless: broken agricultural tools, discarded car springs, worn-out railway pins, and leftover pieces from construction sites. An old truck's axle here, a shattered plowshare there. To any patrolling soldier, it was just a pile of junk. To Frank, it was the raw material for liberation. The design chosen was the partizanka, the partisan woman, a simple, rugged, single-shot 9mm pistol. It was not elegant. It was a tool of necessity. Frank reverse-engineered the concept from a handful of captured Italian pistols, adapting it for production with a hammer, anvil, files, and a hand-powered drill press. The most critical component, the barrel, was drilled painstakingly, by hand from the toughest steel. Scrap they could find, usually suspension springs from vehicles. By early 1944, the operation was in full clandestine swing. The work was done at night. The forge fires banked during the day to avoid unusual smoke. The constant, rhythmic hammering was disguised by the daytime sounds of legitimate repair work. Villagers acted as lookouts with a complex system of signals. A shirt hanging on a certain line, a child singing a particular song. These were the alarms that could mean the difference between life and death. The Gestapo had intensified their raids, hunting for the rumored forest factories. Every finished pistol, wrapped in oiled rags, was smuggled out by couriers, along shepherd paths into the waiting hands of the partisans. But the pressure was unsustainable. In the spring of 1944, disaster nearly struck. A local informant, tempted by a German reward, provided a tip about suspicious activity at the smithy. One afternoon, a squad of German Feldgendarmerie, field police, arrived unannounced. They stormed into the workshop, their eyes scanning the dim interior. There, in crates, lay components, half-finished barrels, receiver blanks, and trigger mechanisms. The evidence was incontrovertible. The officer in charge, his face a mask of cold triumph, began barking orders to arrest Frank and his assistants. For a terrifying minute, it was over. The entire network, the lives of every person in the village who had aided them, and the flow of vital weapons to the frontline partisans, all were about to be obliterated in a wave of brutal reprisals. What happened next was a testament to the village's unity and quick thinking. As the Germans began to seize the components, the village mayor, a man publicly compliant with the authorities, but secretly a resistance sympathizer, intervened. With remarkable composure, he presented falsified paperwork, claiming the metal pieces were authorized parts for repairing the region's vital agricultural water pumps, a priority for the German war economy itself. He pointed to the rough, unfinished nature of the pieces, arguing they were clearly not precision firearms. At the same moment, a prearranged diversion occurred outside. A cart loaded with legitimate scrap metal for the smithy, accidentally, overturned with a tremendous crash in the narrow street, drawing the soldiers' attention and creating chaos. In the confusion, France's youngest apprentice, acting on pure instinct, managed to kick a small crate of the most damning finished components, a dozen nearly complete pistol barrels, through a hidden trapdoor behind the coal pile, into a shallow, water-filled cistern below. The German search, now rushed and distracted by the mayor's bureaucratic obstruction and the commotion outside, failed to find the definitive proof, suspicious but unable to immediately confirm their suspicions. The patrol left, vowing to return. The village had bought only a few hours, maybe a day. Pause. That night, under a moonless sky, the entire operation was evacuated. Every tool, every piece of scrap, every finished pistol was moved. The production was dispersed into the surrounding forests, set up in camouflage caves and abandoned shepherd huts. Frank became a fugitive, joining the partisans in the woods, where he continued his work to the very end of the war. The forge in Chernomel fell silent, but the Partizanka pistols kept firing. By the war's end in 1945, Frank L. and his network had produced approximately 500 of these handmade pistols. Each one, numbered sequentially, was a lifeline for the resistance. They were used in countless actions, from silent sentry removal to last-stand defenses. The casualty toll for the village was miraculously light, thanks to that critical diversion. Only a few were arrested and later released, a rare outcome in the brutal reprisals of the Balkan Front. The historical significance of this operation cannot be overstated. It was a masterclass in grassroots resistance, proving that willpower and community could overcome a lack of industrial might. The Partizanka is not just a weapon, it is a symbol of Slovene national determination. For his extraordinary courage and ingenuity, Frank L. was later recognized with high civilian and military honors from the Yugoslav government. His forge stands today not just as a museum piece, but as a monument to the fact that sometimes the most powerful weapon is not the one that is issued, but the one that is forged by hand from the scraps of oppression.